The Rolex Submariner referenced 6204's journey from a $150 tool watch to a luxury icon worth over $9,000 at retail and trading for twice that on the secondary market represents perhaps the most dramatic value transformation in horological history. 7 decades of price changes reveal how Hans Wilsdorf's diving instrument became one of the most valuable collectible timepieces ever made. When Rolex first introduced the Submariner in 1953, nobody predicted that this diving tool would outperform traditional investments. The original reference 6204, waterproof to just 100 meters and selling for around $150, was designed for working divers and military personnel. Today, that same $150 investment would be worth over $20,000 in pristine condition, representing a staggering 13,000% appreciation over 7 decades. But the Submariner's value story isn't just about raw numbers. It's about how Swiss watchmaking survived an existential crisis, how Hollywood created a cultural icon, and how modern speculation nearly destroyed the very market it sought to profit from. Unlike competitors such as the Patek Philippe Nautilus or Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, the Submariner maintained its original tool watch DNA while ascending to luxury status. The early years paint a picture of the Submariner as an honest tool watch. In 1967, when you walked into a Rolex dealer and asked about the Submariner, the salesperson would quote you $225. Adjusted for inflation, that is roughly $2,000 in today's money. This was not positioned as a luxury item. The Submariner was issued to military units worldwide, was available at discounts for service members, and was designed to endure the kind of punishment that would destroy lesser timepieces. The 1970s brought the Swiss watch industry's darkest hour, the quartz crisis. Japanese manufacturers flooded the market with cheap, accurate electronic timepieces that threatened to make mechanical watches obsolete overnight. Swiss watchmakers, later saved by Nicholas Hayek's Swatch Group strategy and industry consolidation, faced extinction. During this period, Submariner prices remained remarkably stable. In 1974, you could still buy a no-date Submariner for just $325 or $428 if you wanted the date function. Accounting for inflation, these watches were actually getting cheaper in real terms. But crisis breeds innovation, and the Swiss response would transform not just Rolex, but the entire luxury watch industry. Instead of competing on accuracy or price, Swiss manufacturers repositioned mechanical watches as luxury goods, symbols of craftsmanship and status rather than mere timekeeping devices. The 1980s marked the beginning of the Submariner's transformation from tool to treasure. Prices began climbing aggressively. The standard stainless steel model jumped from a few $100s in the early 1970s to $1,325 by the mid-1980s. This was not just inflation at work. Rolex was actively repositioning its brand upmarket, and consumers were responding. The introduction of the two-tone Submariner reference 16613 in 1984 exemplified this shift. It was priced at $2,975, or about $6,745 in today's money. This model was clearly positioned as a luxury item rather than a diving tool. Meanwhile, even the basic stainless steel model was climbing toward $1,400, more than triple its 1974 price in nominal terms. While Rolex's sister brand Tudor offers the Black Bay as an accessible alternative today, the original Submariner was rapidly moving beyond the reach of working professionals. The James Bond connection deserves special attention in this value story. When Sean Connery strapped on a Submariner reference 6538 for the 1962 film Dr. No, he unknowingly created one of cinema's most valuable product placements. The Big Crown Submariner that Connery wore would appear in 3 Bond films, cementing the watch's association with sophistication, danger, and masculine elegance. What makes this connection particularly fascinating is that it was almost accidental. Bond creator Ian Fleming had already written his character as wearing a Rolex in his 1954 novel Live and Let Die, but the specific choice of a Submariner for the films came from producer Albert Broccoli, who loaned Connery his personal watch for the shoot. That simple decision would prove extraordinarily lucrative for vintage watch collectors. Today, authentic Bond-era reference 6538 Submariners regularly sell for over $500,000 at auction. The most expensive Submariner ever sold reached $1.068 million at Phillips Auction House in 2018, making it the first Submariner to break the 7-figure barrier. The 1990s continued the luxury repositioning, with prices climbing steadily but not yet dramatically. A Submariner date cost $3,350 in 1996, reaching $6,000 by 2008. This represented healthy growth, but nothing compared to what was coming. The decade from 2010 to 2019 brought the ceramic bezel revolution, and with it, a new price paradigm. Rolex introduced the first ceramic bezel Submariner date in 2010, powered by the upgraded caliber 3135 movement and featuring enhanced COSC chronometer certification. The no-date version followed in 2012, and prices jumped dramatically. A watch that had previously sold for $4,000 to $5,000 was suddenly priced at $7,100. This was not just a feature enhancement, it was luxury positioning on steroids. The period from 2010 to 2020 saw certain Submariner references appreciate by over 200%, significantly outperforming traditional stock market indices. As one industry observer noted, for much of the decade from 2010 to 2019, steel Rolex got you a better return than the literal stock market. This performance attracted a new type of buyer, the investor. Suddenly, people who had never shown interest in horology were purchasing Submariners purely as investment vehicles. This speculation would drive the market to unprecedented heights, but also set the stage for an equally dramatic fall. The COVID-19 pandemic created a perfect storm for luxury watch speculation. With traditional investment markets in turmoil and people stuck at home with government stimulus money, luxury watches became an alternative asset class. According to data from Chrono24, the world's largest watch marketplace, Submariner prices on the secondary market began climbing at an alarming rate. The madness peaked in May 2022, when secondary market prices for the standard Submariner date reached $18,889, more than double the retail price of around $8,100. This represented the culmination of years of artificial scarcity, with authorized dealers maintaining waiting lists measured in years rather than months. But what goes up must come down, and the crash was swift and brutal. From peak to trough, some Submariner models lost nearly 50% of their value between March 2022 and early 2023. The greater the speculation surrounding a particular model, the harder it fell. Even the relatively stable Submariner experienced a 15 to 20% decline from its peak values. This correction revealed uncomfortable truths about the modern luxury watch market. Much of the price appreciation had been driven by speculation rather than genuine collecting interest. Waiting lists that had stretched for years suddenly evaporated as demand normalized and supply chains recovered from pandemic disruptions. Yet the Submariner's fundamental appeal proved remarkably resilient. While prices fell from their speculative peaks, they stabilized well above historical norms. By late 2024, secondary market prices had recovered to approximately $17,295 for a standard Submariner date, just 8% below the all-time high, as reported by Hodinkee's market analysis. This resilience speaks to the Submariner's unique position in the luxury market. Unlike purely speculative investments, the Submariner has genuine utility and emotional appeal. It is a watch that people actually want to own and wear, not just flip for profit. The production numbers tell their own story about value creation. Rolex has produced approximately 4 million Submariner watches between 1953 and 2020. Based on current market values, this represents an estimated total value of $50 billion, making the Submariner possibly the most valuable single product line in luxury goods history. Rarity drives much of the value in vintage examples. The earliest reference 6204 from 1953 had an extremely short production run, with surviving examples in original condition becoming museum-quality pieces worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Military models issued to the British Ministry of Defense between 1972 and 1976 are even rarer, with only 1,500 examples produced and fewer than 500 surviving. The Comex partnership models represent the holy grail for serious collectors. These watches were produced exclusively for the French diving company between 1970 and 1997, and they featured the specialized helium escape valve which releases gas buildup during saturation diving operations. These technical modifications were never sold commercially, with total production estimated at around 3,000 pieces across all references and individual model runs numbering in the low hundreds. These watches regularly command six-figure prices at auction. Looking at specific appreciation examples reveals the magnitude of the Submariner's value growth. A reference 5513 purchased for $225 in 1967 would be worth over $20,000 today in good condition, representing a 9,000% increase. Accounting for inflation, that is still a real return of over 1,000%. The two-tone models, once dismissed by purists, have shown particularly strong appreciation. The reference 16613, introduced at $2,975 in 1984, now trades for over $13,000, representing 8 times appreciation over 4 decades. Current market conditions suggest a return to more sustainable growth patterns. Rolex implemented modest price increases in 2025, raising the basic steel Submariner by just $100 to $9,200 retail. This restraint marks a sharp contrast to the double-digit increases of previous years. Waiting times have also normalized significantly. Where Submariner buyers once faced waits of 2 years or more, current estimates suggest 3 to 24 months for most references. This improvement in availability has helped stabilize secondary market prices by reducing the artificial scarcity that drove speculation. The investment outlook for Submariners remains fundamentally strong despite the recent volatility. The luxury watch market, valued at $53.69 billion in 2024, is projected to reach $134.53 billion by 2032, suggesting continued growth for premium brands like Rolex. Several factors support continued Submariner appreciation. Production remains limited relative to global demand. The brand's prestige continues growing in emerging markets, and unlike many luxury goods, mechanical watches have proven remarkably resistant to technological obsolescence. The modern Submariner, now featuring caliber 3-235 movement with enhanced power reserve and precision, represents the culmination of 70 years of refinement. The iconic oyster case and oyster bracelet construction remain fundamentally unchanged, preserving the watch's timeless aesthetic while incorporating cutting-edge materials and manufacturing techniques. The Submariner's 70-year journey from $150 diving tool to $9,000 luxury icon reflects broader changes in how we view craftsmanship, status, and value itself. In an increasingly digital world, the mechanical watch represents something permanent, tangible, and genuinely useful. What makes the Submariner's value story unique isn't just the numbers, impressive as they are. It's the consistency of that appreciation across multiple generations, economic cycles, and cultural shifts. Whether purchased in 1953, 1973, or 2003, the Submariner has proven to be not just a reliable timekeeper, but a reliable store of value. The recent market correction, rather than undermining this thesis, has actually strengthened it by eliminating purely speculative buyers and returning focus to genuine collectors and enthusiasts. Today's Submariner market is healthier and more sustainable than the fever-pitch speculation of 2021 and 2022. As we look toward the future, the Submariner seems positioned to continue its remarkable run. With Rolex maintaining strict production controls, growing global wealth creating new collectors, and the watch's iconic status showing no signs of diminishing, the next 70 years may prove as remarkable as the last. From a $150 diving tool to a cultural icon worth tens of thousands, the Rolex Submariner's value journey represents one of the most successful product transformations in luxury goods history. It's a story that perfectly captures how functional design, cultural relevance, and careful brand stewardship can create value that transcends the purely monetary. In the end, the Submariner's value isn't just about price appreciation, it's about owning a piece of history that you can wear on your wrist, a mechanical marvel that connects you to 7 decades of innovation, adventure, and aspiration. That's a value that's impossible to quantify, and that's exactly why people keep paying for it.